What's going on, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Caleb 22, and this is Betting NFL week number 14. And as always, here with me is my co-host, Derek Weatherly, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
It'll be an interesting, week to see as we got the last bye weeks playing out this week in the NFL, and we'll start taking a real focus at these playoff scenarios as they start to fill out. Um, we definitely it's going to be an interesting race going down in the NFC North. We might have three teams with double-digit wins in that division, and so the playoffs are closer than and so it's going to be interesting to see how things play out these next coming weeks.
Yep, the season is winding down just a little bit. Again, the final quarter of the season, 5 games left, but that still means 5 opportunities to place your bets, make some more money, and we'll be here with you all the way through the end of the season, all the way through the playoffs, and all the way up to the Super Bowl, trying to make you guys money, doing our best. Um, and if you've been watching lately, I have been on fire with my picks. So you are very lucky to be tuning in uh, right now, live, or if you're watching later on. Um, doesn't matter. As long as you're consuming these picks, you're winning some money because I've been doing pretty great. Another winning week for me here in week 13. And that's what we'll be going over right now. We'll be recapping the week and what happened. Favorites 12-4 straight up. Not a good week against the spread though. 6-9-1, a terrible week for the favorites. Home teams 8-8 straight up, 7-8-1. We've been seeing that all season. Bad for the home teams as well. Overs, unders, not a lot of points scored, very low scoring. 7 overs, 8 unders. And yeah, like I said, overall favorites not been good against the spread. 99, 90, and 6 against the spread. So not great there. But better than the home teams because home teams absolutely terrible. 88, 101, and 6 against the spread. Never seen it this bad for home teams. Away teams have been dominated against the spread so far this season.
Yeah, it's something we've harped on it here a lot, and even in the past couple of weeks, something I've heard more and more mainstream media, just the lack of a home field advantage. And I think we're starting to see that some definitely from, betting angles. Because as a book, do you still bake in that 2.5, 3 point, favorite for the home team? Is it maybe closer to 1.5 points nowadays? These are things worth considering as we see some of these numbers play out and just some of what we're seeing from the trends and odds. We've said it for, at least a couple seasons
Yeah.
now. Home field, you
But
know,
and it's
there's a
just been getting worse and worse. And this season is just, I mean, I've literally never seen it that. I never been that big of a gap where the away teams were winning against the spread at this rate. Yeah, so yeah, just keep betting. If you're gonna bet, you should be having more more road teams. If you're betting against the spread, than you have home teams because you're just more likely to win by doing that. But all right. We'll get to our what we did um, with our records this past week. Again, like I said, another winning week. Not as good as the previous weeks, but still pretty good. 3-2. I'm 18-7 over the past 5 weeks. That's over 70%. So I'm doing damn good right now. Very very much on a hot streak. My best pick was the Steelers +3 at the Bengals. This one was easy for me. When I saw the Steelers getting points against a defense that bad, as atrociously bad as the Bengals defense, I mean, I just had to. I mean, you're going to give them points. You're going to give them more points when they could anybody can score on this defense, and that's even with the Steelers who don't score any points at all. They always have low scoring, ugly games, and yet their offense could score 40 points on the Bengals. Um, we've talked about, like we just mentioned, the meaningless home field advantage. And you saw that that's even true for divisional games. On a tough divisional AFC North game, it's still true. Road teams, I mean, are still winning. Even those games, home field advantage meant nothing for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow can do everything, but he still made a bad turnover that cost him the game and secured the win for the Steelers. So that was easy money for me.
Yeah, unfortunately, I saw a big giant goose egg on my picks from last week. Now, the irony being, I ended up having a great weekend on some other props and markets I was able to find over the course of the weekend, and ended up finishing, I believe somewhere around plus 10 units on the weekend, but not a single one coming from last week's episode. A vicious, play dying on the hook with George Pickens and his over 74 and a half receiving yards, finishing right at 74. As you mentioned, we both expected a lot of offense, a lot of points in this matchup between the Steelers and the Bengals. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much what we got. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that one extra yard to cash that prop.
Yeah. Uh, Going back, I talked about my good stuff. Obviously, didn't have any good stuff to talk about, but I
Well,
will
I
talk.
didn't have any good stuff from last week, but
Yeah.
something I was looking at that it's a market I've hit from time to time that I think doesn't get a lot of attention. Um, the over under on the longest touchdown in some of these matchups. Last week, there was a matchup, I believe it was the Panthers game, longest touchdown being over under 39 and a half yards. And you really need just the right scenario and matchup to hit the over in that play. And if they're going to make it minus money, around to even money, not much juice to be able to play the under, you find the right scenario, the right matchup. And not to say it's, an easy play, but it's a lot more difficult for a team to score a touchdown from 40 plus yards out than it is to necessarily break off a 40, 50-yard run and get tracked down before they reach the end zone. Um, so that caveat of it having to be a touchdown, a market I've looked at, from time to time at certain matchups. And last week, if I had to say what was probably my easiest pick of what didn't make the show that still made me some money, had to be this, where it was, under 39 and a half yards on the longest touchdown in the Carolina Tampa Bay game.
All right. I'll get to what my worst pick was. Um, which was the Titans plus 6 at the Commanders. Uh, yeah, just very surprising for me. Only not because the Commanders are like completely trash or anything. Just in fact that they looked so bad against my Cowboys the previous week that if they can lose to them, I thought they can lose to really anybody. And their offense looked pretty much like a mess. And the Titans were just coming off a big win as Texas, but this was a huge, like you said it last week. There it was a good right game for the Titans, for the Commanders and Shane Daniels. He was efficient, but they really won it on the ground with 267 yards rushing, 45 carries and 3 touchdowns. They just ran all over the Titans. And I thought that would be the opposite. I really thought Tony Pollard would go in there, considering what Rico Dowdle did to the Commanders, and we don't have a good running game at all. So I thought that would be a way to exploit Dan Quinn's defense, and they shut him down. They shut him down. He didn't ran for crap. And, well, they didn't really have a chance to because they got behind so quick. They just they got a big lead quickly, so really just they couldn't run the ball after that. They just had to pass and rely on Will Levis, and if you're having to rely on Will Levis, that's not work out well for you, and it definitely did not for the Titans.
Yeah, like you said, it was a get right game for the Commanders, and that's kind of what we saw. A team that's been struggling past couple weeks, and it'll be interesting to see how this NFC division plays out. Because because there's I'd have to look at the schedule, but there's still some potential that we're talking about the Commanders possibly fighting for that division crown. Um, you know, the Eagles, if last year showed us anything, it's you can't count on the Eagles to have a victory until the clock strikes zero. We saw last year them have a massive, first half lead as far as the wins and losses on the season, and you know, just a massive downslide. Now, I don't expect that we see something similar to that, but if the Commanders are going to keep going out there and playing good football and keep racking up wins, keeping that season alive and that hope alive that they can reach that division crown.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that they just wrap things up quickly, so when we play them, they can just rest some people. So we still have a chance at that one. But that is our week 13. I'll wrap up that week. And but before we get into our week 14 bets, if you guys can help us out by hitting the like button, subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. If you really want to help us out, you can join Coffee or Ko-Fi, however you want to say it. The link is in the description down below, and you can join whatever tier that suits you. We very much appreciate it, as we appreciate you just for tuning in and watching us. Help you guys win some money, because that is what we are about to do right now with our week 14 bets. And I got to keep going. I'm on the hot streak. How can I not keep going first? I'm just making the people money, and that's what I love to do. So I'm going to start it off, and I'm going to start off with, what do you know? I'm taking the Seahawks once again, +3 at the Cardinals, because they've been working out. They've been paying. They've been working out for me so good in recent weeks, largely due to the odds maker. I just think the odds makers are just undervaluing them. I think it's just that simple. Because they're getting 3 points against the Cardinals team that they beat by 10 points, who they held by 6 points last time they played them, and it was only like 2 weeks ago that they played them. So there's not much that changed. It's very little that changed from a few weeks from then and now. So I don't understand how, just because the venue is different, but we already talked about that home field doesn't mean crap, and especially at the Arizona Stadium, it doesn't mean crap. So yeah, I just don't see how they can be favored in this one. When the Seahawks look better, they've been playing better. They're on a win streak right now. And during this, they've been 4-2 against the spread in the last 6 games, 5-1 against the spread last 6 games against Arizona. So yeah, I like the Seahawks once again.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you that this is a situation where it seems like the wrong team is favored. We're talking about a Arizona Cardinals offense that a couple weeks ago, I believe, failed to score a touchdown in their matchup with the Seahawks. And if the Seattle defense is going to be able to keep the offense under control, it's going to lead to the likelihood that you see the Seahawks walking and get away with this game with the outright win, in my opinion. So the fact that you're, getting points, whether it be the spread or the money line, I definitely think, Seattle's the way to go in that matchup. Now moving into my first play, it's going to a very hot offense, and one that I've talked about a number of times over the course of this season. And we're going to the Detroit Lions with the matchup with the Green Bay, and going with Jameson Williams, over 3.5 receptions. In the past 4 or 5 games, he's covered this number multiple times, getting 4 and 5 receptions in multiple games. And I think we see, a strong passing outing in this matchup. He's a play. And one thing to keep in mind, he was not available due to a 2-game suspension with the last time Detroit and Green Bay played, which I think, kind of factored into some of what we saw out of the offense with Detroit in that matchup. Um, But I think, not that this number's low, but as I said in past in multiple games in the past few weeks, he's gotten 4 and 5 receptions. He gets plenty of target share in offense that we if people are doubting the Detroit Lions offense, they're just praying and hoping that it falls off, and that just doesn't seem to be the case. And this is going to be an area I'm targeting this week, over 3.5 receptions.
Yeah, hitting that Thursday night game once again. It's just always scared me. Always scared. Don't like it, and I just don't like putting my bets so quickly. Also, I think that's what it is. I just don't like waiting a little bit. I like it being all together. Don't like waiting a few days. And I just like being it all on one day, and then you win your money that day, and then it's just all doing the Thursday night. You have to wait a few days, and you have to wait the whole weekend, and then you get money. But that's just me, I guess. Um, but yeah, on to my next pick. I got the Bills minus 4.5 at the um, LA Rams. Bills are on a 7 game winning streak, playing like one of the best teams in the league right now after destroying the 49ers in the snow on Sunday night. They have scored 30 or more points in 6 straight games. They're trying to get that number one seed away from Kansas City um, after they just clinched their AFC East division so early in the season. The Rams are a 500 team at home. The Rams are a bottom five rushing defense, and then in the league. And James Cook, we just saw how well he played last Sunday, and they, like I said, the Bills are been relying on that run game a lot more this season, and I think he's going to tear it up against this bad rush defense of the Rams, and I think that's how they will cover that 4.5 point spread. Bills 6-1 in the last 7 games against spread, 8-4 overall on the season. Very good covering team, so I like them to cover this week.
Yeah, definitely like the Bills in this matchup. +4, flirting with how things might play out with last second touchdowns, maybe garbage time TDs, something like that. But in lines with you mentioned James Cook. This is something I highlighted at the beginning of the season. I kind of expected a higher production out of Cook. Um, Maybe not necessarily due to an increase of production, but an increase of usage throughout the offense with Joe Brady in his first season as full-time offensive coordinator up there in Buffalo. Last week we did see San Fran face multiple injuries in the running back position. Um, but this is a team, offensively has not struggled regardless of who the opponent was, has dropped 30 or more points in the past 5-6 weeks in a row. The offense is just clicking and steaming right along, and it's hard to get in front of that. And I don't think the Rams are going to be able to keep up with the Buffalo Bills offense in this matchup. So, at the -4, not the friendliest of spread, but I definitely think the Bills can cover that in this matchup. Now going into,
Well, before you get to that, we'll say what's up to Jose. Thanks for tuning in.
now going to my next play, there's been a lot of talk and attention around Cleveland, and Jameis Winston and the things coming out of his mouth, but also the play that's taking place on the field. Now we're seeing, some really incredible passing numbers. Not uncommon, Jameis Winston. Now we also seeing, him praying for deliverance from pick sixes, which again, not uncommon to Jameis Winston. But I do think we see, this player that I'm about to mention utilize. We've seen him utilize more in the passing game, especially since Winston has come in as the starter these past few weeks. And we're going to David Njoku with his touchdown prop. Now, last week we saw, him with 9 receptions, 17 targets in the game. That's just wild in itself. Now, he was able to rack up 2 TDs in that game, but we can also look at other games where not only has he had a double-digit reception game going back to the Bengals matchup, but he's had 5 or more in 3 other matchups with 9 receptions in one of those games. He's racked up, only 4 TDs on the season, but all 4 of these TDs have come within the last, 6 weeks, 2 of those being last week, and we're getting a nice plus number on him at the moment at plus 120 in this matchup. Do I think we see him get in the end zone? That's a high possibility. You could also potentially pair this with Jameis Winston throwing an interception, because I think we all know Winston's going to put in, he's going to rack up some TDs and he's going to rack up some INTs to go right along with it.
Definitely can count on that. I'll get to my next bet of the weekend. I got the Falcons at the Vikings -5. I'll take the Vikings at home, given the points. Kirk Cousins was an absolute disaster last week, throwing 4 interceptions, which were some of the worst passes you ever did see. Just terrible decision making, and just they've been obviously a lot of people want him to replace him, want to try out Penix. They are sticking it with him for at least this week, playing against his old team, and I think it's going to be a mistake sticking with them. I think it's just going to be too much for him to overcome. Cousins hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 weeks. 3 games. Vikings fighting for the number 1 seed in the division, have won 5 in a row. They have been close in their games than you would like to see, especially with a 5-point spread. It's pretty big, but even those close games, they've still covered against. They covered against the Titans, covered against the Jaguars, they covered against the Colts. It might have been tighter than you wanted, but it seems like they can still, even in 1-score games, still cover these spreads.
Yeah, I think this will be an interesting game to watch, because so far this season it's been a bit of a bust for the Kirk Cousins experiment down in Atlanta. We've seen this. I think a lot of people expected this offense to produce more fluently with the head coach Arthur Smith fired and moved on from. There's a lot of talent at multiple positions within that offense, and a lot of people believe it's just a quarterback away. And so far, Kirk Cousins has failed to be the quarterback to propel that offense to the next level. And I think it shows in a lot of ways with what we've seen so far out of their season. And in this matchup, I'm actually going to be targeting their defense, going to Jordan Addison with my next play to score a touchdown. We're getting a nice plus number here. He's also racked up a TD in 3 out of the last 5 games. Been utilized a lot more recently within the offense. And I think in this matchup, the defense for the Atlanta Falcons has struggled throughout the season, whether that be, in the rush game or in the pass game, towards the bottom of the league in passing yards per game, as well as passing attempts. Worst in completion percentage, and whether it be Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, these are players, they get the ball in their hands in space. Aaron Jones, give them space with the ball, they got a chance to burn you, and they can definitely find their way into the end zone regardless of which one of these players you're talking about. And for Jordan Addison, you're getting plus 140 on the anytime touchdown currently.
All right. My next bet, I got the Chargers +4 at the Kansas City Chiefs. It just seems like every week we see the Chiefs in a close 1-score game, no matter how good their opponent is. Doesn't matter. But they do win all those games, all except one of the against the Bills. But even last week, going back, I even won money on a parlay picking against the Chiefs in a big spread against a divisional opponent like the Raiders. Um, and they weren't able to cover. And I don't see again in the same situation. It's not as big of a spread, but 4 points is still 4 points. And the Chiefs going against a divisional opponent who's a lot better than what they faced last week. Um, yeah, I don't see them covering this one. I think they probably will get their lucky play that they have at the end of the game and somehow come out with the win, like they always do. But I think 4 points is a little too much. I think they'll probably win by a field goal or less. So I'll definitely take the points on that one. Chargers 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 games, 8-3-1 for the season. Chiefs are terrible against the spread, 0-6 in the last 6 games, 4-7-1 for the season. So yeah, definitely going against the Chiefs on this one.
Yeah, I definitely think there's more a likelihood that we see the Chiefs win by, 3 points, maybe a push on the spread, winning by 4 points. But I don't think there's, much uh much evidence you can supply to give confidence to back the Chiefs on the spread. Now, I will be targeting Isaiah Pachenko for anytime touchdown in this game as we see him return basically back to the full-time starting position. Uh, we saw a shared workload between Kareem Hunt and Pachenko last week, and on 7 carries, he was still able to rack up 44 yards. By all accounts, we're talking about him being, fully healthy and moving back into that number one role. I think we might still see some small usage out of Kareem Hunt, but I do believe we see, Pachenko used in that primary running back role that we've seen in the past, and we also see that reflected in his odds as we see the touchdown market is right at even money at plus 100.
All right. For my final bet of the week, I got the Bengals at the Cowboys. Cowboys getting 5.5. And you know what? I don't see there's going to be many opportunities to put money on my Cowboys, but I think this it's a good situation for them. Getting 5.5 against this terrible defense. I was talking about it earlier. They just gave up 40 points to the Steelers, who don't really score points. So if they can, I think the Cowboys can put up some what of an offense. Obviously, that is been the weakness for us, getting a cohesive offense together. But Cooper Rush has been settling in a little bit better, and then obviously we've got a run game going for the past 2 weeks. We got it going against the Commanders. We got it going against the Giants. And I don't see any reason why we can't go get it going against this terrible, terrible Bengals defense. Um, so I think Cooper Rush will get to CD Lamb. He'll be making plays. Hopefully, they get Kamate Turpin more involved. He's a big play guy that can take off and go. And then our offensive line has been playing better. Sadly, that's because Zach Bart's not in there. Which is sad to say, but it's just true that often, it's been better with the backups in there. And I think that's been the difference in the last couple of games. And our offense has been playing better because of that. And then our defense has gotten a lot better as well with the getting healthier, just getting our guys back, getting Deron Bland back, getting Mike Parsons getting back into form, and he's been a terror for the past 2 games. So I definitely think Jared Burrow and his offense can score a lot of points, and we saw that on Sunday. But he makes mistakes as well that cost him the game. And I do believe Michael Parsons can force him into making that one mistake that cost them the game in this one. But even if they don't, I still think Cowboys can keep it close and cover a 5.5 point spread. And Cooper Rush has beaten Joe Burrow in the Bengals before in 2022 when they were a lot better, and Cooper Rush still came out the winner on that one. So I believe he can do it again.
Yeah, I definitely think this is a Bengals defense that is not worthy of being a 5.5 point favorites in this matchup. Um, we've seen a number of matchups throughout the course of the season where their defense just gave up numerous points, regardless of who was on the other side of the ball. And Dallas has shown flashes that they can get the ball to the end zone. And in this matchup, both of these teams come in favoring the over. Cincinnati 9-3 to the over this season. We got Dallas, who's been 8-4 to the over. Reflected similar to in the game total 49.5. So the books are saying they expect some points to potentially be scored in this game, and I would not be shocked if, at least we see Dallas cover, even potentially Dallas to win this one outright, because when you mix in the possibility of turnovers, yes, Dallas can commit their own turnovers, but as you mentioned, Joe Burrow has been susceptible to turnovers in costly moments. And things of that nature. So I think it increases the likelihood that at minimum we see Dallas covering that matchup, if not win outright. Now going to my last play for the week, targeting an unlikely potential hero, going to Tennessee with Westbrook in, in not even sure how to say the man's name insidely. Nick Westbrook in kind. Um, Man's been a monster recently, getting into the end zone, as we've seen over, you know, pretty much the course of the season. Man's racked up TDs, and even here recently developed more of a connection with the quarterback. And we saw last week him score two TDs in that matchup with the Commanders. Week before that, racking up a TD against Houston. Before that, reaching the end zone against Minnesota. Took a break from scoring a TD. If you go all the way back to the Chargers game, but over the course of the season, man has just been racking up TDs after TDs, regardless of what week it was. And that's exactly where I'm going to with my final play. As um, not only are we getting a plus number on this anytime TD market, we're getting an extremely nice plus number. This is coming in at plus 180. And we're talking about potentially the hottest touchdown streak outside of maybe Saquon Barkley. And you're definitely not getting minus money Saquon Barkley prices. You're going up against a bad team with Jacksonville. The Jacksonville's going in with a backup quarterback in that matchup. So the possibility for turnovers exists more. The possibility for extra possessions for the Tennessee offense does exist more. So the fact that this number is coming in at a plus 180 in this matchup is shocking in itself, but you know, possibly one of the hottest touchdown trends, and we're getting it at plus money. So I'm gonna be jumping on this all day at plus 180.
All right, that will be our bets for week 14. Make sure you get all those bets before the game start. Safe betting out there. Only can bet with what you can afford to lose. And yeah, as always, we'll be here next week as well, going through the same thing, making guys money. But for now, you can find me at NFLKL22 on Instagram and Twitter/X. And you can, if you have any questions about betting as well, if you don't understand anything, need some clarification, or you just want to know our thoughts about any bets you might be making, you can leave questions down in the comment section below. We would love to answer them for you. But as for now, you can tell everybody where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yes, the folks can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube, as well as at the Yard Bets on Twitter and BAM Sports on Blue Sky.
All right, and also tune in on Friday at 3 o'clock. I'll be doing Good Friends, Better Rivals, talking Cowboys, talking Giants with my co-host Ferris McDonough. Good Friends, Better Rivals. Go tune in for that. We have a lot of fun, and we'll be talking about our upcoming matchups. Obviously, I'll be going more in detail about our matchup against the Bengals and whoever the hell Giants play, but really doesn't matter because the Giants will lose. So tune in for that. But for now, like I always say, let's get ready to make that money.